Hello. Thanks for downloading our Christmas message. If the fact we have a Christmas message offends others, I'm afraid that's just tough. We're going to keep on celebrating Christmas, but for how much longer can the people of Britain as a whole keep on celebrating Christmas? This year it's become more than ever really almost a suppressed festival. The newspapers, even the newspapers, have been full of stories from town after town, city after city, about the lights being suppressed, Father Christmas being suppressed, carol services being suppressed, nativity plays being suppressed in schools. There really is a great deal of pressure on this tradition and on our culture, on our ways, to either keep their heads down very low or be abolished altogether. It's a poisonous mixture of neo-Marxist political correctness and Islamic fundamentalism or fear of offending Islamic fundamentalists, and it's getting worse year after year after year. This year has been particularly bad. This isn't something happening by accident. It's not something which is just one little thing happening by itself. There's a pattern going on in this country. We are becoming dhimmi in our own land. It's a strange phrase, D-H-I-M-M-I. It's the Islamic term for non-believers who are tolerated in an Islamic land as long as they do certain things and obey certain rules. And one of the key things that the dhimmi, the unbelievers, the second-class citizens, have to get used to is that they're not allowed any open display of their own religious or cultural beliefs. Anything which goes against Islam, they are not allowed to display. Now in Pakistan and so on, this means not rebuilding a church when it's been firebombed or blown up by Muslim extremists. In Saudi Arabia, it means not singing Christmas carols loud enough so that anybody next door can hear them. And in this country, the first creeping signs of this aspect of dhimmification are coming in the way in which our Christmas lights have been abolished in our town centres. And to some extent that's the fault, as I said before, of far-left fanatics now disguised as the ruling Labour Party, but also pushing them, giving them an excuse to do it and providing a motivation for them to do it as well. There's this point that it offends ethnic minorities. Well, I tell you, it doesn't offend Sikhs or Hindus. Actually, it doesn't offend very many Muslims, but it offends some, the really noisy ones, the really pushy ones. So our Christmas lights have to go because we're dhimmi, second-class citizens in an increasingly Islamified land. There are many other aspects of how the dhimmi have to put up with things. One of the ones which we'll be talking about early in this coming year is the way in which the dhimmi, the non-Islamic second-class citizens, have to accept that they have to pay special taxes which go to help the Muslims and the Muslims only. Now you might think, oh, it's years till we get that kind of thing happening in Britain, but if you live in a town with a heavy presence of those people, if you just look at the way that council tax is collected and the areas in which it's spent, you'll see actually there is a special local tax operating without anyone knowing about it, without anyone being asked about it. That special local tax is operating already because the areas paying the special tax are overwhelmingly non-Islamic, and the areas receiving that special tax under the guise most often that because they have so many children, these people are very high on the index of poverty. The areas receiving the special taxes are Muslim, not Sikh, not Hindu, not West Indian. Basically they're lumped in with the rest of us, but they're the ones with a very high birth rate, and we are having to finance that. Something we're going to be using a lot in the coming year is this, which I'll probably cut into in a minute, HSBC Amana Home Finance. And this is the HSBC, the bank which recently threw the British National Party out, and the operation that they've got to offer interest-free mortgages to Muslims. Now actually the bank doesn't let them off. They, instead of paying interest to mortgages, officially they're renting from the bank. So they get screwed by the banks, same as everybody else. But what does happen is that because they're officially renting, if they fall unemployed or claim they fall unemployed, then whereas if one of us is buying a house on a mortgage and fall unemployed, you don't get any help from the state. Because officially they're renting, they get the mortgage, which they don't call a mortgage, paid by the state, quite possibly theoretically for the full 25-year term. It enables a Muslim who wants to take a mortgage on the basis that they're working for their Uncle Abdul or whatever, to pay the deposit, or if they're in a housing association home, to use their equity, their share of it, as a deposit, so they didn't even put a single penny down. They can get their house, they can then, miraculously enough, lose their job, and the state will pay. Trouble is, the state doesn't have any money. The only people that the state gets its money from is us, ordinary taxpayers. And the HSBC has set up this system whereby Muslims can get this special preferential termed mortgage thing, and we can't. And if that isn't a special tax on us, considering if they fall unemployed we have to pay for it, I don't know what is. So it's another example of the creeping dimification of us in our own land. Spare a thought this Christmas for other victims of something which comes from the same pattern, the same mindset. The idea that the dhimmi are less important, that they're not entitled to any kind of protection by the state. As long as they submit, then they're left alone, but they are second-class citizens. They're a lower form of life, and really, if they're attacked or whatever, it doesn't particularly matter. Spare a thought this year for the parents of Chris Yates, for the parents of Ashley Hedger, for the parents of Sean White, for the parents of Scott Pritchard, for the parents of Chris Donald. 5 young men, ages ranging from 30 down to 15, who in the last year alone have been beaten or stabbed or tortured to death by gangs of young punk Islamics who get their hatred for us and for Western society and for white people primarily from this culture of the fact that they're special, that they're better, that the infidels are dirty and unclean. And although they're not particularly good Muslims, you know, they drink vodka and chase after girls and all the rest of it, that gives the mindset in which these people develop and feel they're entitled to exercise a ferocious hatred for non-Muslims. Incidentally, there's a young Sikh lad who was murdered in the same way in Coventry, whose name I can't remember. So it isn't just, it's not a racial thing, this is a cultural thing.